Maria Callas. Almost half a century after her last stage appearance in opera, her recordings still sell, her singing is well documented on YouTube, and evokes many postings, both positive and critical, and most importantly, her art is still a powerful shaping force in the world of opera. What was so special about this daughter of Greek parents who was born in New York City in 1923, just a few months after her family arrived in the USA? Her early childhood was shadowed by constant parental strife, and when she was 13, her mother moved back to Greece with her for the express purpose of having her trained as a singer, since such training was too expensive in New York. Her performing career began in Greece during the war years, and by the time she returned to America in 1945, she had sung several dozen performances of a wide-ranging operas, including Tosca and Fidelio. After 2 frustrating years in America, she moved to Italy, where her international career began with performances of La Gioconda in the Verona Arena. Callas' voice was unique. It lacked the warm beauty of her contemporary rival Renata Tebaldi or the silvery sheen of Lisa della Casa, but its distinctive tone and exceptional flexibility, coupled with her genius as a dramatic interpreter, made her performances memorable. Even in her early years, her combination of vocal power and remarkable agility was unique. In her first years in Italy, she sang primarily heavy dramatic roles by Verdi and even Wagner. But in 1948, she also had success as Bellini's Norma, which became one of her signature roles. In 1949, she took on Brunhilde in Wagner's Die Walküre, conducted by the famous Italian maestro Tullio Serafin. It was during the run of performances of that work that a flu epidemic claimed the soprano Serafin was counting on for an important production of Bellini's bel canto opera I Puritani. He remembered an audition with Callas at which she'd impressed him with the mad scene from that opera, along with heavier dramatic selections, and he asked her to take on the role, even though it normally was sung by sopranos who would never think of tackling Wagner. In 10 days, she learned the role, as well as singing the 3 remaining performances of Brunhilde, and then went on to a sensational success in I Puritani. This remarkable feat was a turning point in her career and launched her into a series of major productions of bel canto operas by Bellini, Donizetti, and Cherubini, including works that had rarely, if ever, been heard in modern times. It was her ability to sing the elaborately ornamented music of these operas with a powerful dramatic voice, and also to bring the characters to vivid life through her acting, that combined to have a major impact on operatic production in the mid-20th century. Her performances literally sparked a major reevaluation of these operas as musical drama, an influence which continues to have its effect today. As with any singer, her art was inextricably bound to her personality. Her power and emotional depth grew from her talent, her inner resources, and life experience. Ultimately, her troubled life also contributed to silencing her art a decade before her solitary death of a heart attack at age 53 in her apartment in Paris. Terrence McNally's masterclass was inspired by a series of public classes Corliss gave at the Juilliard School of Music in New York in 1971 and 1972. Callas' performing career had virtually ended at that time. Her last stage performance had been given in 1965, and her only remaining public performances were to be joint recitals with her old colleague, Giuseppe Di Stefano, on an international tour in 1972-1973, in which both singers were shadows of their former selves, a sad ending to 2 glorious careers. The classes at Juilliard consisted of one-on-one coaching sessions with young singers. The sessions were recorded, And the recordings are widely available on CD, a complete set on CD-ROM, and in postings on YouTube. Callas' work with the singers was generally supportive, and her advice reflected the ideas that she had been taught as a student, particularly by her teacher, Elvira de Hidalgo, and how she had used them and learned from them in her work. While what she said was sound and at times inspiring, it was not particularly original. But when she sang to illustrate a point, it was another matter. Her expressiveness with both the words and the music was revelatory, as it had been through her career. And even at that point, perhaps free of the pressures of a full performance, her voice could still weave something of the old magic. McNally's play represents 3 class sessions, freely based on these recordings, but his play is not a literal reproduction of any of them. In the play, Callas' teaching is synthesized from the full body of sessions and interwoven with memories of many aspects of her career and personal life, which are evoked in her mind by the music. The singing of the students is interwoven with selections from live recordings of Callas' own original performances in the background. The play is a uniquely perceptive at operatic music and its performance by a playwright whose love and knowledge of opera and singers is exceptional. Callas' memories in the plays reflect some of the ways her career as a singer was inseparable from her personal life. The vividness of her art and her personality made almost everything she did newsworthy. She quickly acquired a reputation for temperamental behavior, both artistically and personally, a reputation which was sometimes justified and sometimes not. As her fame grew, everything she did became fodder for the press and the gossip columnists. Her first marriage to Giovanni Battista Meneghini, a wealthy, much older man, provided her with financial security and support for her early career. But as her fame grew and opened new social horizons to her, she and her husband grew apart, and she ultimately left him for the even wealthier and much more prominent Aristotle Onassis. Onassis didn't like opera, but seems to have regarded Callas as a prize trophy, while the singer herself seemed to be carried away by the high life among the rich and famous which he offered. By the time she found a way to circumvent Italy's divorce laws and was free to remarry, her career was in decline, and Onassis no longer was interested, particularly after he turned his attention to the widowed Jacqueline Kennedy, whom he did marry. There's no question that Callas' voice began to display signs of decline as early as the late 1950s, a decline that led to a gradual reduction in her stage appearances. Her operatic roles were replaced by concerts with orchestra, where she sang excerpts both from her past successes and from work she never appeared in on stage. She also continued to make best-selling recordings during this period, including stereo remakes of her early complete opera recordings, plus those of operas that she never sang on stage, and a variety of Italian and French solo scenes. Toward the end of her singing career, the results of some of the studio recordings that she made after 1965 were either unpublished or not released until after her death. As Callas' career was taking off in the early 1950s, she became increasingly aware that her weight limited her ability to match the power of her musical interpretations with a corresponding physical appearance. And early in 1953, she began to lose weight. In less than a year and a half, she lost 80 pounds and transformed herself into a strikingly beautiful woman, which she remained for the rest of her life. The gradual decline in Callas' voice is clearly documented over the years in her recordings, particularly the numerous live performances which were broadcast. Many explanations for the changes have been suggested, including her loss of weight, singing heavy dramatic roles when she was too young, a faulty vocal technique which gradually became more severe, various health problems, the stress of living up to her image as an artist, or the difficulties in her personal life. There's no general agreement on which or how many of these factors were involved. Certainly, her career was cut off too soon. Fortunately, many of her audio recordings convey what was so memorable about her performances and keep her work alive. On the other hand, there are few visual documents of her stage work, as the technology for televising live performances was in its infancy during her prime. By far the most satisfying and most frustrating video of her work is Act 2 of Puccini's Tosca from Covent Garden, in which she appears opposite her great colleague, Tito Gobbi. It is available on DVD and is a powerful performance despite the limitations of the video technology. It is also frustrating because only the second act of the performance was televised. Her only film was a rather undistinguished non-musical adaptation of the story of Medea. It's been said that Callas had no sense of humor, and it's certainly true that she hardly ever took on comic roles on stage. Given the challenges throughout her life, it is almost inevitable that her greatest work would be in the embodiment of tragic heroines such as Elvira, Lucia, Violetta, and Medea, roles in which she achieved a power, a beauty, and a human truth that represented musical theater at its very finest. Needless to say, the role of Maria Callas is an exciting challenge for an actress, and McNally has cleverly structured the script so that the actress isn't required to sing, and certainly not sing like Maria Callas. In the original Broadway production of the play, Canadian actress Syl Caldwell triumphed in the role, and the young singers who appeared as students included Audra McDonald, who won one of her 6 Tony Awards so far in the production. In the Milwaukee Chamber Theater production, Angela Iannone will once again embody the role which she played here so beautifully 15 years ago. Most of Callas' live and studio recordings are readily available on CD. The links on this site will connect with some of her recordings that are on YouTube, including the aria from La Sonnambula, which appears in the play. And also there is a link to an excerpt from one of the original master classes. These websites include many more links to other memorable performances by Maria Callas, whose vivid artistry lives on today. Thank you for listening. Milwaukee Chamber Theater presents Masterclass by Terrence McNally, August 7th through August 24th. For more information, visit milwaukeechambertheater.com.